8 people are dead. 1 is still missing and presumed gone, and the 6 who survived spent hours trapped in a frozen wilderness, waiting for rescuers who had to ski through whiteout conditions just to reach them.
This is the avalanche near Lake Tahoe?
The deadliest avalanche in California history, and it happened on a guided trip with professional backcountry guides who knew the terrain. I'm Zuri.
I'm Alistair.
And this is Zeitgeist. Here's what we know. 15 people, 4 guides and 11 clients set out on a 3-day backcountry skiing trip near Castle Peak in the Tahoe National Forest just north of Truckee. The group was led by a company called Blackbird Mountain Guides. They'd been staying at huts near Frog Lake since Sunday and were heading back to the trailhead on Tuesday morning.
And the avalanche hit while they were on their way out?
Around 11:30 a.m., someone in the group shouted, "Avalanche!" The slide was roughly the size of a football field. It split the group. 6 people, 5 clients and 1 guide made it to a treed area and took shelter. The other 9 were buried.
How did the survivors get help?
They had satellite messaging devices, iPhones and emergency beacons that let them send texts to rescuers even without cell service. Search and rescue teams took a snowcat as far as they could, then skied roughly 2 miles through active avalanche terrain in near whiteout conditions to reach them. They got there around 5:30 p.m.
6 hours after the avalanche.
The survivors found 3 of the bodies before rescuers even arrived. 2 survivors were hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. 1 has already been released. The 8 who died were found close together. Their bodies are still on the mountain because conditions are too dangerous for recovery.
And the 9th person?
Still missing. Presumed dead. Nevada County Sheriff Shannon Moon said the mission has shifted from rescue to recovery. She told the families. She said it was one of the hardest conversations she's ever had.
What makes this especially tragic is that these weren't reckless amateurs.
Not even close. Blackbird Mountain Guides is well established. On the very same day the group set out, one of their guides posted a video on Instagram warning about avalanche dangers from the incoming storm. He pointed out dangerous snow layers and said, quote, "Avalanches could behave abnormally, and the hazard could last longer than normal."
And they went anyway?
They were already on the mountain. The trip started Sunday. About 30 inches of snow fell from Monday to Wednesday at the nearest weather station, which sits 800 feet lower than where the avalanche happened. So it was likely even worse up there. The sheriff said it plainly. Mother Nature does not seem to care how prepared or experienced you are.
And this was the second deadly avalanche near Castle Peak this year?
A snowmobiler was buried by 1 in January. Placer County Sheriff Wayne Wu added a devastating detail. One of the 9 people who died was the spouse of a member of the Tahoe Nordic Search and Rescue Team. The people searching for the dead were searching for one of their own. From one kind of silencing to another, Stephen Colbert is at war with his own network.
This is the CBS thing? With the interview he wasn't allowed to air?
So here's the story. Colbert taped an interview with James Tallarico, a Texas Democrat running for Senate. CBS lawyers called the show directly and said they couldn't air it. The reason? The FCC's equal time rule, which says if you give airtime to one political candidate, you have to offer the same to their opponents.
But late-night shows have always been exempt from that, haven't they?
For decades, yes. Late-night shows, talk shows, and news programs were considered exempt. But FCC Chairman Brendan Carr, a Trump appointee, announced in January that the agency would start enforcing the rule more strictly against these shows. The FCC recently sent an inquiry to ABC about whether The View violated it by interviewing Tallarico.
So CBS got scared.
That's Colbert's version. He went on air Monday night and said, quote, "Donald Trump's administration wants to silence anyone who says anything bad about Trump on TV." He called out the pattern. Disney suspended Jimmy Kimmel last year after Carr criticized him. Trump sued CBS over a 60 Minutes story, and Colbert's own show is being cancelled in May.
How did CBS respond?
They released a statement saying they never prohibited the interview. They said they provided legal guidance and offered alternative options, including airing equal time for other candidates like Rep. Jasmine Crockett, Tallarico's primary opponent. They said Colbert's show chose to put it on YouTube instead.
And Colbert's response to that?
He held up the statement on a piece of paper and said, quote, "This is a surprisingly small piece of paper, considering how many butts it's trying to cover." Then he went on for 7 minutes dismantling it. He said CBS lawyers approve every word of every script, that they called him backstage, between segments for the first time ever to dictate specific language, and that calling their statement anything other than a prohibition is, his word, crap.
He literally picked it up with a bag like it was dog waste.
He did. Meanwhile, an FCC commissioner pushed back on the other side, saying the FCC has, quote, "no lawful authority to pressure broadcasters for political purposes." And then Carr himself said Wednesday that the agency plans to strictly enforce the equal time rule and that some talk shows may no longer qualify for their decades-old exemptions.
So whatever this is, it's not over.
It's not. That interview, it went on YouTube, over 5 million views, more than any late show broadcast would have gotten. The Streisand effect is alive and well. Now, a deal that might explain why Nvidia stock hit a new all-time high today.
The Meta thing?
Meta and Nvidia announced a multi-year partnership that analysts say is worth tens of billions of dollars. Meta will deploy millions of Nvidia processors, Blackwell and Rubin GPUs, Grace and Vera CPUs, plus Spectrum-X networking across their entire AI infrastructure.
Millions of chips. When we say millions, how big is that?
This is the largest single AI chip deal ever announced. Meta is the first hyperscaler to deploy Nvidia's Grace CPUs as standalone processors at scale. Those deliver about 2 times the performance per watt on AI workloads compared to previous solutions. Jensen Huang called it a deep code sign across CPUs, GPUs, networking, and software.
And this is on top of Meta already planning to spend $135 billion on AI this year.
On AI infrastructure alone, and they're standardizing their entire stack around Nvidia. That's a huge bet. They were reportedly considering Google's TPUs as an alternative. When those reports surfaced in November, Nvidia's stock dropped 4%. Now, AMD shares fell 4% on this announcement.
Winner take all.
For now, it's winner take most. One detail worth noting, the partnership includes Nvidia Confidential Computing for WhatsApp. That means AI features inside WhatsApp messages while keeping the data encrypted. AI in your private chats. That's where this is heading. And finally, the Fed, because the minutes from their January meeting dropped today, and they paint a picture of a central bank that genuinely doesn't know what comes next.
They held rates steady.
Almost unanimously. They kept the federal funds rate at 3.5 to 3.75%, but the vote was 10-2. Governors Christopher Waller and Stephen Miron dissented because they wanted a rate cut. After that, though, opinion fractured in every direction.
How so?
For the first time in recent memory, several Fed officials said they could envision raising rates if inflation stays elevated. Others said they'd support cuts if inflation comes down as expected. The minutes described a meaningful risk that inflation could run persistently above 2%. It's currently about a full percentage point above target.
And then there's the AI question.
This was fascinating. The Fed is now formally debating whether AI will create a productivity boom that naturally brings down inflation, or whether it's inflating asset bubbles through, quote, opaque private markets. Several officials said tech-driven productivity could put downward pressure on inflation, but most cautioned that progress toward 2% could be slower and more uneven than expected.
And Powell? Is he staying or going?
The minutes confirmed Powell was reselected as chair for 2026, which sounds routine, but it matters. Trump picked Kevin Warsh to replace him in May, but Warsh's confirmation is at risk. Republican Senator Tom Tillis is blocking Fed nominees over a DOJ investigation into Powell. If Warsh can't get through the banking committee, Powell stays by default.
So the man Trump wants out might end up staying because of Trump's own DOJ.
The irony is thick, and that's the backdrop. A split Fed, an AI-driven economy they don't fully understand, and a leadership transition that might not happen on schedule. 9 people buried under snow on a mountain, a late-night host fighting his own network over the right to air an interview, a $135 billion bet on AI chips, and a central bank that can't agree on where interest rates should go or who should be in charge.
Not a quiet Wednesday.
They never are. I'm Zuri.
I'm Alistair.
And this has been Zeitgeist.